Effective writing expresses the message in a conversational tone. Stiff, stilted legal terms and old-fashioned business language can make our documents sound like contracts rather than a simple request or a routine announcement. So how can you achieve the conversational style? Often when communicating in business, we forget that a human being is reading what we have written. A human being who reacts just like you and just like me. I could give you a multi-page list of words to use and words to avoid using, but let's make learning how to achieve the conversational style simple. Ask yourself this one basic question. Think what you were about to write and then ask, would I say this if I were speaking face to face with someone? For example, would you ever say to someone in the hallway as you handed that person a packet of material enclosed, please find the following items? What would you say as you handed the packet to your coworker? Probably, here are the materials you asked me to gather for you, or the forms are in this packet. Would you ever end a telephone conversation by saying, hoping to hear from you in the near future, and hang up the receiver? More likely you would say, I hope to have your answer by Friday, or let me know by Friday if you need more information. Have you recently said per your request? I recently have not, but an email I received within the last week began with per your request, why not, as you requested. This message is in regards to why not. This is regarding, or this is about your request for a new price list. So the simple rule is, if you would not say it, don't write it. On the other hand, writing can be too informal or too slangish. Just because you might say something to someone does not mean that you should write it that way. I might say to that coworker as I handed that packet, here's your stuff, or here you go. But I would never write that. So not stiff and stilted, but also not too slangish. The email, the memo, the letter, the announcement on the bulletin board, whatever the channel, your goal is to sound conversational and provide your reader with writing that is natural and personalized. Readers will immediately detect mechanical sounding language. You want your reader to know that you see him or her as a person rather than as a robot. Readers appreciate business writing that sounds human. You have heard the cliche that you have one chance to make a good first impression. That cliche applies to your business messages. Often a reader first and maybe only impression of you is formed from that email or letter you sent. One of the first things a reader notices is correctness. Your writing needs to be correct in all areas. First, check to make sure your recipient names is spelled correctly. We like our names. You receive a message telling you how important your account is, but your name is spelled incorrectly. You notice the error immediately, and your first impression is that you were not important enough for someone to verify the spelling of your name. Next, check that your mechanics are correct. As wonderful as spell checkers and grammar checkers are, they won't flag all mechanical or proofreading errors. Reading a message before sending it is crucial. When your reader sees an error, he or she does not know if you don't know what is correct. If you don't care, if you were in the hurry, if you think it does not make any difference or that no one else will notice, the end result is the same. It's incorrect and people do notice. Some specific examples you should always check are you for your. Be sure to put your name on the reservation list than for them. I would rather attend the conference in July than the one in October. Also check for omitted words or repeated words. The next meeting in room 417. The next meeting is in room 417. Homonyms, words that sound alike but have different spellings, such as IT apostrophe S and ITS, and a stationary STATIONARY and ERY should also be checked carefully. The building will have its annual cleaning next month. ITS is correct because it shows possession. The stationary bicycle will be added to the exercise room. ARY is correct. The bicycle stays in one place. Also use correct punctuation, comma and semicolon for example. Tell the manager that you want a current handbook. The one you have is outdated. A semicolon is needed, otherwise you have a comma splice. Finally, make sure your format is correct. For example, does the letter look like a letter? Does it use a modern format or the old-fashioned format with intended paragraphs? Here is an example of a letter that is left justified. All lines begin at the left margin. Most companies have a pre-printed letterhead which will include the company name, contact information, and maybe a slogan or logo. Next, the date will be given, followed by 2 to 4 blank lines. Then it's the reader's name, title, and address. A double space below the inside address is the reader courtesy title, MR, MS, or DR, followed by the last name. A colon is used after the names in business letters. A comma is generally used for personal letters. The actual body of the letter is then given. If the letter is more than one page, each additional page needs a continuation heading that includes the reader's name, the page number, and the date. A double space below the last line of the letter's body is the complementary clause. Sincerely and cordially are the most frequently used. Then leaves 3 blank lines for the writer's signature. The only other ending parts might be the reference initials. Those are used if someone other than the person who wrote the letter actually types it. If you have mentioned in the letter that something is enclosed, then an enclosure notation is used. And finally, the names of others who might have received a copy of the letter are listed. So correct names, title, grammar, information, and correct letter format, correct in all those areas overall, those are easy area to check. The result, that good first impression. Think of coherent writing as writing that holds together, a message that flows well, all parts fit together, and all the ideas connect. Have you ever stopped reading something because you were uncertain how the ideas connected? Did you ever have to reread an email because you thought you would miss something? If you are the writer, you know how the ideas connect. But remember that the reader is not seeing the connection through your eyes. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and when you finished speaking, that person made a comment that seemed to have nothing to do with what you were saying? Consider this conversation. You excitedly, let me tell you about the car I just bought. It's a 1996 blue Camry with a V8 T-top, black leather interior, 16-inch wheels, and a 6-speed stick shift. Your listener, after appearing to listen, replies with, I really need to drop off some old newspaper at the animal shelter on my way home this evening. Maybe with anger or disappointment, you realize that your listener was not interested in what you were saying and certainly did not share your excitement. Now let's get inside the mind of the listener. Your listener heard the word new car, and even though he is hearing what you are saying, you have triggered the thought, my aunt bought a new car, and then she bought a new puppy that tore up the inside of her car. Let's see, that reminds me that I need to drop off those old newspaper at the animal shelter on my way home this evening. Do you see the transition in the listener minds? The response made perfect sense to him. The speaker did not have the advantage of seeing those connectors in the listener minds. Those connectors are the transition that help you show your reader how the ideas connect. Your audience has to have the ideas connected or the message will not make sense. These two ideas don't connect. All employees are now eligible for a monthly productivity award. Work will begin next month on expanding the south parking lot. Does the following announcement make more sense? Is it clearer? Beginning immediately, all employees are eligible for a monthly productivity award. In addition, as many of you have requested, work will begin next month on expanding the south parking lot. These two ideas do hold together. With transition, the message is now coherent and does not jump from one idea to another. So what techniques are available to help you make your writing coherent? Use transitional words and transitional phrases to help achieve the smooth flow of your ideas. For example, however, but, and on the other hand, show your reader that you are changing direction. I like the new furniture's design, but the color is gaudy. Similarly and likewise, show a thought continuing. Our company is paying for the conference fees and reimbursing us for meal expense. Therefore, consequently, and even though, show a cause-effect relationship. I volunteered to help set up the display. Therefore, I had to arrive early. Have someone read your writing objectively or put it aside for a while and then reread it yourself before sending it to help you identify incoherent bubbling and show you where you need to add transitional words as you revise. Whether your message is 3 or 4 sentences, 3 or 4 paragraphs, or numerous pages, the entire message should hold together and make sense to the reader. If your reader questions if your information can be supported rather than just being your opinion, and you can provide no valid support, you lost credibility. How easy it to regain lost credibility? I firmly believe that once your credibility is harmed, you can never restore it to its maximum level. To make sure your writing is credible, do your research, support your opinions, check your information carefully, and use reliable, valid sources. Consider this example. Your supervisor sent you an urgent email that he needs your exact sales to call ratio in 10 minutes for a report that he needs to send to the CEO in 30 minutes. You are busy, but you think you remember the figures correctly, so you send those to your boss. Your boss uses the figures you sent, but later realizes they are incorrect. What happens the next time you are asked for figures? Will the boss double check even if everything you have sent since has been accurate? Probably that's human nature. Here's another example. Would management accept this statement as a proof that a beverage machine should be located on the 5th floor? I recommend that a beverage machine be installed on the 5th floor because I talked with several employees and most of them said they would use it. Probably not. This message is more credible. I recommend that a beverage machine be installed on the 5th floor because 120 employees, 80% of the employees on that floor said they would use it at least twice a day. Much more likely to get the machine installed because you have offered specific support. How can you gather credible facts? Primarily sources such as questionnaires, surveys and experiments, and secondary sources such as books, magazine, articles and reports can be equally credible or not credible. Questions to ask as you analyze the credibility of your sources are: how are the data collected? For example, were objective questions or biased questions asked? How often would you use the drink machine versus you would use the drink machine a lot? Would not you? The first is objective, the second is the vague leading question. What was the sample size? Did you ask 3 of your co-workers or all 120 people in the department? Did the person reporting the data have a bias? For example, your brother-in-law works for the company that installs the drink machines. How current is the information? The survey was conducted last week or a year ago when you heard someone say that he thought a drink machine was a good idea. You should learn to question the credibility of the information you receive and take the necessary steps to be sure that you give credible information as you become a more effective business writer.